Hello, this is Miss Andrea, and it is time to go live so we can talk about school issues. Kind of got busted eating my breakfast here. Thought I had a few more minutes. But I did also want to give people a chance to get logged on. So bear with us. We'll start the live in approximately 2 minutes, giving people time to get logged on. We'll be with you in 2 minutes while I shovel this cereal in my mouth. Hello, my name is Andrea, and it has been 2 months since my last. Hello, this is Miss Andrea. Just about to get started with this live stream. Just checking everything. You guys know how hard it is to live stream, honestly, especially when you want a picture in the background and you want to make sure people are invited and your camera decides to act super wonky. But I'm almost ready to go. One quick second. Okay, let's do this. Hello, this is Miss Andrea, and today I want to talk about school issues. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I missed my usual live stream last Saturday. Unfortunately, someone I love very, very, very much passed away, and we had to deal with that funeral. And honestly, I'm just not 100%. So bear with me. I'm incredibly distractible lately. But I want to talk about school issues. Okay. And so what I did was I just literally Googled school news. And there's some whoppers at the top of the Googles this week. And so we're going to discuss those. But if anyone wants to discuss something that is pressing to them when it comes to school and school issues, type in the comments and I will 100% address that. Okay. So let me get out of my Canva. Let's start at the beginning, huh? This week, oh, I don't want this. Let's go ahead and put that picture right there. Let's make that bigger. There's some news I don't want to deal with on this page. High school football coaches were fired this week after allegedly forcing a player to eat pork. It sounds like something that students would do to each other, not something that the authority figures would do to a child. It is against a child's. How do I make this stop? Is against a child's religion to eat pork. The child is a Hebrew Israelite, which means they're Black, but they're Jewish culturally and their religion. Okay. And so the child eats kosher. It blows my mind the cruelty that these coaches inflicted on this child. A high school football coach and 6 assistant coaches have been fired. 6, 7 adults have been fired after they allegedly forced a player to eat pork against his religious beliefs as punishment for missing a non-mandatory practice. So they just felt like being mean to this kid. The practice he missed was non-mandatory, and they wanted to punish him for missing him. So they did the most egregious thing they could do to him. Whatever happened to making a kid run laps? You know, if it's about teamwork and showing up for your team, then make him run laps. When I was in high school, there were days where I couldn't walk up the stairs because I had been forced to run laps. So the player, a rising senior, so they knew this kid, in Canton, Ohio, had missed an optional practice on May 20th due to an injury. This just gets better and better. Non-mandatory practice, optional. He had an injury. He missed practice, and they forced him to eat something that was against his religion. When the teenager returned to practice 4 days later, the head coach told him he would have to eat a pepperoni pizza. Otherwise, his teammates would be forced to do extra drills, and his own status on the team would be compromised. That's some narcissistic nonsense. Everyone on the team knows this child will not eat pork. This is the word that's bothering me right now, will not. I have a sibling who is in the military, and just after seeing some things, he decided he was never going to eat pork again. If he accidentally gets exposed to pork because he hadn't had pork in his body all these years, he gets physically ill. You don't have to tell him that there's pork in it. Like someone came to my house and made a sauce and put sausage in it, and didn't tell me they put sausage in it because they knew I ate sausage. But my brother had some and he started vomiting. So it will not eat pork. Your body rejects things that it is not familiar with sometimes, when it should have been that this child cannot eat pork. The student who consumes only meat or poultry that is certified kosher, this child only eats kosher food, y'all, because he is Hebrew Israelite, was forced to eat the entire pizza. This child will probably never eat pizza again. He was forced to eat it in the school gym while the coaches, 7 adults, and all of his teammates watched. To say the coach used poor judgment would be an understatement. Absolutely. The teen's father said their family has not eaten pork since 2013 as part of their religious beliefs, which means the child has not eaten pork in 8 years. which means the child has not eaten pork since they were 9 or 10 years old. I felt very upset and just felt disrespected, the father told WW News on Tuesday. Makes you question, are they, doing their job, or are they capable of doing their job? That's what I'm saying. Like, none of these adults checked the main coach. There were 6 assistants. Nobody said, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. The alleged incident was captured on the school's surveillance cameras, according to Canton City School District Superintendent Jeff Talbert. So they initially suspended the coaches while conducting an investigation to the allegations. The school district also filed a report with the local police department, according to Talbert. This is the family members and attorney. The investigation found that the identified coaches engaged in actions that constituted inappropriate, demeaning, divisive behavior and a misguided attempt to instill discipline in the student athletes. Misguided and how? This behavior will not be tolerated, Talbot said in a statement Wednesday. This incident does not reflect on Canton City School District culture. If 7 adults allowed this to happen, this absolutely reflects on the culture of the school. Culture of protecting the physical and emotional well-being of our students. It absolutely does. It absolutely reflects on the school. 1,000,000%. On Thursday evening, Canton City School District's Board of Ed voted 5-0 to terminate the head football coach, along with 6 assistant coaches. 7 whole adults. Man, that must have been a good team to have that many coaches. Their contracts will not be renewed at McKinley Senior High School or anywhere else in the district. Oh, they'll move to another state. They'll keep spreading their toxicity. This means that these individuals are no longer coaches within the Canton. I already read that. They won't be involved in any Canton City School football activity moving forward. The coach's lawyer said his client was only trying to teach the teen a lesson. Since when is a hurt teen need punishment for healing? And this is what was said. Okay, you're special. Can I do something for you? Can I get you a pizza? Well, I'm hungry. He goes and gets him a pizza. And he brings back the pizza. Oh, it has pepperoni on it. I don't eat pork. I'll get you some chicken fingers. No, it's okay. I'll just eat this pizza. So he took the pepperoni off and ate it. Oh, this is what the coach is saying. The coach is saying that the kid ate the pizza on his own accord. That's not effing true. Excuse my language. This made me really mad. This young man had every opportunity to get up and leave the room at any time, he said. So the coach isn't even accepting that what he did was wrong, and instead he's victim blaming. The judge says that his clients requested an extension for an investigation, and they haven't even been spoken to. Regardless who is right or wrong, this is not something you rush. Punishing a child by forcing them to eat something that doesn't gel with who they are, their religion, and possibly their stomach is also not something you rush, sir. The lawyer representing the teen's family said they will most likely file a lawsuit. Because people are going to be mad that the lawsuit was filed, but you absolutely have to set precedent so that people will see it and possibly not do it again. The interim head coach says, "My role will be to guide this team through this difficult time, continue to build our unity, and have a successful season." So, my immediate concern is that this child is ostracized. His high school career, as he knew it, is completely over because when a successful coach or a successful athlete gets punished for a wrongdoing, the person who calls them out is the one whose life is usually most ruined because they missed a game, their season got messed up, whatever. I feel like this kid, rising senior, is going to have a hellish senior year, and he probably won't be on the team going forward, whether he wants to or not. So what do we think about stuff like this? What do we think? Um, is it race? He's Hebrew Israelite. Would they have done that to a Jewish person who also eats kosher? Would they have done that? Or would they have been afraid of the repercussions? I don't have an answer to that. I just know that in some areas in schools, teachers are given too much autonomy, especially in athletics. And in some areas of school, teachers aren't given enough autonomy. And we've got to stop focusing so hard on athletics because that's where most of the stuff goes down. So what else do we have? Comments, thoughts? Y'all quiet today. Super quiet. Oh, okay. This one is hard for me. It was at the top of school news. Okay, do I need to read this out loud? A teacher who had been investigated because he had child and baby pornography on his computer is now being charged with violating a child with an object. He was charged with that and that, and 9 counts of that. And board members called for his immediate resignation. They called for his resignation? Oh. Are they not allowed to fire him? Are they like New York, where teachers have to be put on a timeout until they're formally adjudicated? Huh. Did he have tenure? Why can't they just fire him? Things I need to know. The investigation into him started in January, so it is June. They have been investigating him since January. Has he been in the classroom? Oh my. Because he dropped some bad images into his Dropbox. And so they started investigating him. Search warrant for his home, found some really bad stuff. Oh my word. Video chatting with kids, 12-year-old victim. Can I say something barely related and completely controversial? I think that we need to pay teachers more because we pay teachers more. We get quality instructors. We get quality instructors. People like this stop slipping through the cracks. These violators, these shady characters, stop slipping through the cracks and getting near our kids. If we pay teachers a real wage and allow them to live with some dignity and not have to wait tables in the evenings and in the summers, we're going to get better candidates. We're going to get much better candidates, right? We're going to get much better candidates. Okay. I literally can't handle this face another second. What else do we have? Guys, I didn't choose these. These were the top news stories relating to school this week. Okay. Washington family claims middle school students were asked to clean cotton for a school lesson. Well, what's wrong with that? Black students humiliated by cotton picking assignment. 14-year-old twins said they felt humiliated and confused after their teacher oh, dang it. I clicked to see the bottom headline. It looks like the name of their school is Sacagawea, so we have already got a problem racially, socially, and emotionally. Okay, let me pull it together. A Washington state family is calling for the removal of a school administrator whose suggestion was to separate two Black students after their mom raised concerns about a classroom assignment the students say involved cleaning cotton. The twins said they were in their social studies class on May 3rd when the teacher pulled a box of raw cotton out of her desk and told the kids they were going to do a fun activity. The girls added the students were subsequently instructed to clean freshly picked cotton as part of the classroom assignment to see who could do it the fastest. I teach students, I teach history. I get it. If people don't stop texting me, I'm throwing my phone out the window. I absolutely get it. I absolutely get it. You want to do some immersion work. But this is not where we do the immersion work at. It's not. The 14-year-olds who attend Sacagawea Middle School in Spokane, we've already got an issue. Sacagawea is not your name. Change the school's name. Change it. How dare you? The girls were hurt and shocked during the lesson and told their mother about the incident. She was floored when she heard about the lesson being taught in class. For you to pass out cotton and to my children and tell them that essentially they're going to pick the cotton clean and it's a race and who can get it clean first. So that it was extremely bothersome to me and my children, said the twins' mother. Under no circumstances do they need to be taught what it's like to be a slave or what it's like to be Black, because they already know. Short story. And this wasn't in a public school. This was in a homeschool program. My son is 27. He's lived through it. He's 5. Maybe around the age 10, 11. He was in a middle school, homeschool type class, and they were discussing American history. And he came home and he said, the teacher pointed at me and said that if it was 1960 or whatever year that was, none of you would be able to be friends with Jackson, and pointed at my child. That hurt him. It hurt him because everyone looked and stared. And it's like all this time he had just been Jack, that cool kid Jack. And now he's like Jackson, the poor Black kid. And that killed a child's self-esteem. To make things worse, and so I'm not even dogging on public schools. I'm just dogging on teachers with no emotional quotient. That a few weeks later, he told me he needed candy for social studies. And I'm like, That's a dumb choice because y'all get hyper when you eat candy. But if the teacher wants y'all eating candy in her class, okay, what you need this candy for? We're going to play slave and we're going to pay the slaves with candy. That didn't happen because I made a phone call. So and there's another subject on this roster that's going to allow us to talk about this a little bit deeper. But yeah, the parents said, I reinforced to my daughters that they are worthy and their value. That was a horrible time in our history, and we shouldn't be learning from that. And we should be learning from that. And it should never be repeated. Stop making children relive their ancestors' pain. And so this is the mom. The mom is, far as I can tell, I believe this is the mom. The mom is white. Her children are black because clearly their dad is black. Or the girls are adopted. From the picture I saw, the girls look like they might be mixed race. The students were learning about the Industrial Revolution and the cotton gin was discussed. Right, I get it. I know why they did it. We all take complaints very seriously and are committed to investigating them fully. I taught about the cotton gin too, with my mouth. With my mouth. We talked about it. We had a whole discussion. And what we discussed, here's the lesson. What we discussed about the cotton gin is that the invention of the cotton gin caused an uptick in slavery because now they could process cotton faster and make more money. So instead of them using less slaves because the cotton gin cleaned the cotton, they used more slaves and they imported more slaves to grow more cotton. The lesson in the cotton gin isn't that here's how slaves picked cotton, and now the cotton gin did it faster. The lesson in the cotton gin is that they automated cleaning the cotton, and this caused an uptick in slavery because they wanted to grow more. There's your lesson. Y'all, this is hurting my soul. So, Fiesel said she was disappointed with the school's administration. And to top it off, the teacher's still in the classroom doing whatever she want to do. And the twins got separated and sent to separate classes. This is the baby, 14. The twins were separated and punished, not the teacher. Because how dare you complain? How dare you? Thoughts? Comments? Questions? You don't have to comment in this live stream if you are feeling shy. But anyone who sees this after the fact, please go ahead and leave a comment and tell me, am I overreacting? Are the schools overreacting? Are they right? How do we fix this issue? So, what we just did, right? What we just did. And a teacher teaching about the cotton gin by having children pick cotton takes us to this conversation right here where state board in Utah basically they don't want people teaching critical race theory. And they're saying that it's teaching the children to be racist. What is teaching is for the children to be sensitive so they don't grow up and become teachers and traumatize children like the previous teacher did. So, Betty Sawyer left. Bloop. A supporter of critical race theory exchanges views with a group of women. Bloop. Opposed to the theory after protests organized by Utah Educational Equity Coalition outside of Capitol in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have Book of Mormon in my head, so I want to pronounce it Salt Lake. On May 19th. The president of Utah's largest teacher association urged the Utah State Board of Education Thursday to own its position in general control in the Utah Public Education Systems Board prepares to address educational equity in schools and educational standards. I get it. I get that they don't want to be like race, feel bad for being white, race, feel bad. And also at the same time, some Black kids may feel pointed at. And kids are mean, so kids may say or, go after the kids in some kind of way. Because, kids sometimes are just like kids. And then a teacher's like, Black stuff, and everyone looks at the Black kid. And now he's no longer kid, he's a Black kid. I absolutely get it. However, if we're not going to teach us to think about race and to have some sensitivity toward things that we think are cute or funny, like forcing a Black Jewish child to eat a pizza, if we're not going to teach us to have some sensitivity toward issues that may be germane to Black people so that we don't traumatize and subjectify them, what are we going to do different? We can change all the textbooks and not have Black history at all, but have a real, true American history. Because that's what I teach. And y'all, if I don't do lives this summer on Saturday, if I miss a few lives, it's because I'm working hard. I am literally writing a textbook this summer and editing 2 years because I'm going to publish them. Because history is history. You don't have this race history, that race history, this race history, that race history. You have history. And we need to stop telling history from the point of view of the victors, because now it's revisionist history. And I'm literally working on history textbooks right now. I'm literally working on history textbooks right now that will my brain is dying. Address history as a whole. For example, I taught ancient history this past year, and ancient history rarely teaches how old the indigenous American population is. It really addresses where all race started in one spot and the timelines from which people went from South Africa to China and to here and there. It doesn't address that something interesting was happening in the Caucasus Mountains and that they may have been a separate group. It doesn't address that, before land split, people went over into the Americas, Mesoamerica, and things like that. So you really have to teach ancient history from a research standpoint, which is what we taught. This research shows us this research shows us that. And you have to address American history literally in a timeline. This happened, and that happened, and this happened, and that happened. And this caused that to happen, and that caused this to happen. And then if we teach history correctly, we don't have to teach race. Social studies, on the other hand, need to teach us how to socially live amongst each other. Do I need to say anything else about this? This is hard. And I'd love to know what people think about critical race theory, which honestly I never heard about until I was this many years old. So I'd love to know what people think about critical race theory in schools, whether it's necessary, whether it's not, what are the other solutions, what should we do? So in this case, the board rule prohibits instruction or professional training by a school district or charter school that promotes or endorses that a student or educator's sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or member in any other protected class is inherently superior or inferior to another sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other protected class. That sounds good. Okay. So we teach this. We take this statement and we emblazon it on our walls, and then we just teach history. Wait a minute. It's not good. I read it bad. Let me read it again. The board rule prohibits instruction or professional training by school district or charter school. So you're not allowed to say these things. You're not allowed to teach anything that says or endorses that a student or educator's sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or membership in any other protected class is inherited, inferior, or superior to another. You're not allowed to say that one person is not better than the other person. Yeah, I'm trying to straighten out my face right now because I know it's screwed up. On the biggest wall in every school, there should be a sign that says, no one's sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or membership makes them better or worse than anyone else. Breaking my heart, y'all. It also precludes instruction that a student or educator bears responsibility for the past actions of individuals from the same race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other protected class as the student or educator. And this is where the problem lies. This is what is ruffling people because of guilt feelings. They don't want anyone to have guilt feels. And I get it because your unborn child does not owe me anything, even if you've killed me and robbed me blind. You know what I'm saying? So instruction that a student or educator's sex, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or membership in any other protected class determines the content of their character, including value. You're not allowed to teach that people are equal regardless of what they look like, who they love, and who their family are. But we can ask Black kids to pick cotton. We can ask a classroom full of students. That includes Black kids, let me be fair, to pick cotton. This is making my chest hurt. Is such teaching happening here? Early in the day, Utah Education Association President Heidi Matthews urged the state board to own its position of general control of public education system, blah, blah, blah. Cautioned that by passing the rule, the board would be ceding some of your authority and positions to other entities who don't necessarily have the accurate terminology and information about what's actually happening in the schools, especially with regards to discussions about race and racism. They have not sought to input as to the chilling impact and consequences of prohibiting the teaching of something that isn't being taught. Because it wasn't being taught in the first place. Our job is to teach children to excel at reading, writing, math, and critical thinking skills, not how to become social justice warriors. Okay. Why don't we strip schools of everything? We can do this. We can teach reading, writing, math, and critical thinking skills, but we'll have to remove history from the classroom. We might also have to remove science from the classroom because some people don't like science no more. So let's just teach them reading, writing, math, and critical thinking skills. They can get there at 8, they can leave at noon, and they can have a great life. And they can learn whatever their parents want them to learn in the afternoon. That could be scary. Y'all. All right, next one. I can't. Okay, let's move this so you can see what's going on. America's schools are falling into disrepair with no solution in sight. It's not really America's schools per se, it's America's inner city schools. So let's read the whole sentence. Clumpy lead paint and plaster curl off the walls of some inner city Philadelphia schools. I have an inner city Philadelphia friend who teaches. And yep, is bad. Staff members at a Florida school haul sandbags and clear drains manually during heavy storms. A 1930s era boiler is still used to heat the Rhode Island school. The snapshots are in a report last year from the Government Accountability Office, the first comprehensive picture of the dilapidated state of school facilities since Congress tried to call attention to the problem nearly 25 years ago. After finding that a third of schools were in severely deficient condition, and those thirds of the schools are all inner city, I promise you. The situation has only worsened since then. It's been 25 years. In many inner and poor rural schools, inner city and poor rural schools, environmental engineering experts and local officials say. And some worry that an influx of cash from the federal government won't be enough to remedy the issue. I think they have to start building new buildings. My elementary school that got torn down last year, and it hurt my heart, was a Catholic school. And they're building a charter high school in its place. I've been hearing rumblings of years that my high school was going to get torn down. And what they were probably going to do is flip it, build a new school on the football field, and then build a new football field on the school, just to keep the location. Sometimes when the school's been up for 100 years, it got to go bye-bye because it's not safe for the children. Because just pouring money into a dilapidated building often costs more than just building new. I asked my husband to be quiet. He down a whole chuckling. Okay, so the poor conditions included water-stained, decaying ceiling tiles, and repeated school closings because of oven-like conditions in warmer months, and no heat in the winter. All right, I need to ask him to stop over-talking me. Okay. The current superintendent says, when I became superintendent, the most glaring example of disparity was the infrastructure. This is the superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. The poor conditions included water-stained, decaying ceiling tiles, and repeated school closings. Oh, I already read that. I got distracted. Nationwide, the backlog in school maintenance and repair projects is at least $500 billion. The nonprofit 21st Century School Fund estimates. The current president is planning to inject $193 billion into the crumbling infrastructure. Just build new, y'all. And while you're at it, build like something really cool, like dome buildings. They're cheaper to put up, and they're safe from storms. So then they become a community shelter. I got ideas, people. I have ideas. The disrepair in many inner city schools is one of the starkest illustrations of inequality in America. And when you learn in a depressed, decaying environment, your quality of education suffers. It really is a national tragedy when you start looking at these schools and understand what kids are subjected to. In many buildings, conditions have deteriorated so badly that districts are plowing everything they have into maintenance. Don't do that. Just knock them down. Build new schools. Schools in Philadelphia need $3.5 billion in immediate upgrades. Conditions are toxic. There's a real impact on health. 80% of the buildings are more than 70 years old. Yikes. I wish I could make this picture bigger for you. Good grief, y'all. Okay, let's change directions for a minute. So, my darling nephew graduated last weekend. And because of COVID and a low amount of tickets available to family members, I watched his graduation online. And I kept seeing students with flags. And the camera was zoomed in on the person handing the student the diploma, through a great deal of the online feed. The camera was zoomed in on the person handing the students the diploma. So the student would walk over, lean in, take a picture, mask up or down, depending on what the student wanted, and they would hand them the diploma. But I noticed about 20% of the kids, as they were walking toward this person, was pulling a flag off of their shoulder and folding it and putting it under their arm. And then taking the picture and getting the diploma and walking away. And I didn't exactly know what it was about, but I kind of assumed it was people who were just, the family was just so proud of their heritage that they gave the child the flag to display as they walked down the aisle to get their diploma. And the children were pulling it off as they came in for the picture and the diploma. Well, one student in Ashboro High School was wearing a Mexican flag draped over his gown, as many students were, in my nephew's school. And didn't take it off before he got to the diploma. And I think that's kind of what children were asked to do. Yeah, you can display your flag, but at some point put it over your arm and accept your diploma. And this child kept it on. And the principal got mad, got booed. They gave him the empty diploma holder. They're not going to give him the diploma until he apologizes for being out of dress code. I honestly don't know how I feel about this. Because if there was a conversation before on, yeah, you can wear your flag, but, when you come across the stage, take it off so that everyone, it looks uniform, it looks cohesive, you look like a graduating class. I don't know what the conversations were. The family went to the principal's office and were at some point escorted outside by the police. People who attended the ceremony and watched the videos are accusing school leaders of racism. Asbury City Schools said that they have been misrepresented across social media and that the child was violating the dress code, which does not allow flags to be worn. Okay. They stressed that it was not about the Mexican flag, but a flag. I think this is something cultural that students do because it happened. This is Asheville, I'm guessing North Carolina. I'm in Georgia, and a quarter of my nephew's classmates did this. I've been to other graduations in this past decade, and honestly, I think it's a relatively new phenomenon that just started in the last couple of years because I'd never seen it in a live graduation. I hadn't been to a public school graduation in about 4 years. Witnesses told media that other students had decorated their caps and gowns, but they weren't reprimanded. My nephew was told that he absolutely could not decorate his cap because he asked my daughter to paint it after graduation. Students planned a protest at the high school Friday and a change.org petition demanding he be given his diploma. It was received over 2,000 signatures. Here's the thing. He graduated. He did the work. You give the boy his diploma, and whenever whoever asked for his diploma, you forward it to them. By not giving him his diploma and by not forwarding to whatever college he's going to his records, and I don't know if that's happening or not, you stop his education. He's been there 4 years. He did the work. One moment of him wearing a flag shouldn't take his diploma, just like news of a kid who did a really bad thing, and father said one moment of bad whatever shouldn't ruin his life. Y'all. Ooh, y'all. Okay, last one. After a tough year, schools are axing virtual learning. Some families want to stay online. During the throes of the pandemic, many parents, weary of monitoring their children's online classes, yearned for schools to reopen. When vaccines expanded, schools reopened in many cities and teachers returned, but huge numbers of students did not. Weeks passed, safety protocols became routine. The president's administration urged in-person attendance, and still millions of students stayed remote. Their parents concerned about the virus, not to mention bullying, racism, misbehavior, and childcare. As fall approaches, many schools are ending virtual programs, just ending them, and trying to return children to classrooms 5 days a week. New York City, the nation's largest school district, eliminated remote options for next year. Now, remote options have always been there for the last 10, 15 years. All schools have had remote options. So they're just going to disrupt remote options, even for kids who have always used the remote options, to force kids back into the school district. Oh, what they're forcing is another surge in homeschooling. That's what they're forcing. So, New Jersey's governor announced schools must fully open in the fall with no remote learning. Illinois public schools must do the same for all. See, I've been looking at beds for my daughter, and I've been looking at round beds. Do I need to move this over here? Why y'all doing this to me? As fall approaches, many schools are ending virtual programs and trying to return children to classrooms 5 days a week. New York City, the nation's largest school district, eliminated remote options for next year. I already read that because I'm so distractible. Illinois public schools must do the same for almost all students, probably not the ones who were virtual before this happened. That's my concern. South Carolina passed a law requiring public schools to offer full-time instruction this fall. A whole law. Well, why wouldn't they offer full-time instruction? Offer full-time instruction is one thing. To mandate is another. 5 days later, the Senate modified its version of the budget bill to cut state money from districts with more than 5% of their students in virtual programs this fall. But I think more than 5 students have always been in virtual programs. I think I made a video and said this, that what was going to happen was that did they move the pictures up so I can't not see beds? The blinking bed is really distracting me. I'm a very distractible person. Okay. My fear has always been that this resurgence of homeschooling, and people calling it homeschooling, which is why I've always been so doggedly determined about calling it COVID schooling, was that it was going to be deemed a failure and they were going to use this to eliminate homeschooling. And I'm seeing whispers of it. Look, I don't care what people do. Just leave everybody else alone. And so the schools want to eliminate public school at home options, which has been their last gasp to keep people who wanted to homeschool in. That's their decision. That's not going to stop people from going ahead and homeschooling. You know. So the problem is achievement. While some students thrived, my nephew thrived. Amid the flexibility of learning from home, many others failed to log on or experience a spike in failing grades. Last fall, after most districts nationwide started, yeah, because some kids, you know, watch a video of mine on learning styles. There are many different types of learning styles. Children learn in different ways. And so the kids who learn better, uh, um, kids who are good solitary learners, and solitary is a substyle because there's auditory, visual, kinesthetic. But then there are these substyles, and some kids learn better um, doing group projects, and some kids learn better learning alone. And so it's a substyle that we started to see blossom this year. The kids who are social, emotional learners didn't do good. And the kids who are solitary learners, who have always struggled, suddenly did well because now they're finally in a solitary situation. So I have a video on that. I'll try to link it. So that's what's going on. There's no replacement for in-person learning. Not true. This person was talking about how schools would spend a record should spend a record 122 billion in additional federal COVID-19 recovery money. States' plans for how their schools will spend that money are due to the department on Monday. States are allowed to spend their money on virtual schooling if schools believe that's the best way to help children recover. Yeah, so my opinion is that the states need to spend a great deal of money this year on one-on-one tutoring. And that can be done via Zoom, or that can be done in a one-on-one in person after school. But I think a lot of money this next school year for the public schools and private schools should go into after school programs because a lot of kids lost a lot of ground. Like the brain drain is going to be so real, and they're going to need personal tutors to bring them up to par. That's what I think. I'm concerned about pushing kids back into schools when their parents don't want them to go, without a real plan about how we're going to do business better for them in person. Because here's the thing. You guys notice how nobody wants to be a waiter anymore? And how there are other jobs no one wants to do anymore? That's because those jobs sucked. And by removing yourself from them, whether you meant to remove yourself or not, now it's just super evident that that thing I used to do was like death to me. And this thing that we used to do, this public school thing that we used to do, was like death to a lot of families. And they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back. So we can look at why they don't want to go back and fix stuff. Like the issue we just discussed that nobody wants. Or we can just lose these kids altogether. We end up inadvertently doing more damage around Black and brown families by saying it doesn't matter, they're choosing to keep their kids at home. The data indicates they're failing, but under what circumstances? Are we measuring the right things? I'm not sure I understood that last sentence. Are we measuring the right things? Virtual students got through less material and received less instruction in English, math, and science this year, compared with students at schools that mostly operated in person. Okay, my school, my homeschool program, at this point is very new. We had gotten through 6 months before COVID happened. And at this point, we've just finished our second year. A year and a half of that was online. Yeah, it's hard to get kids to complete assignments when it's virtual. It's really hard. And it's hard to come up alongside them and say, hey, you didn't finish this assignment. Let's work on them together. It's hard to find those moments because I had an easy time with that when we were in person. I had ways to pull the child aside and encourage and just spend 5 minutes because I was real quick to say, okay, why didn't you write this essay? And you're like, I got stuck. And I would just grab a pen and paper and just start talking and asking them questions and transcribing for them. And I was like, look what's in your head. You're not stuck. And then give them that paper and pencil and let them finish the assignment. Like, so that there's that personal one-on-one thing that a lot of teachers have, that a lot of teachers are gifted at, is missing. Yeah. But who's to say that the way public schools do it is right? For a lot of kids have suffered in virtual school. Um, and I've had some struggles with some kids. But because my program is small, I'm able to contact parents and do the thing and really get people on board. Maybe we need to look at how we educate so many people at one time. Maybe that's the problem. I'm not against school programs. I run one. I'm against school farms. On average, students at schools that were mostly remote were more likely to have been disadvantaged in the past. Yeah, it makes it hard to interpret the poor results of remote learning. Whether in person or virtual, most schools are not designed to support students of color. Oh, this is where we're going. Are we allowed to talk about this right now? Or is that going to make somebody feel bad? Okay. Students of color may have excelled online in ways not captured by traditional achievement measures, such as building confidence, learning from home, feeling more freed from bias, racism, or bullying in class. That's what's happening. If y'all thought Black homeschooling was growing, expect to see more evidence of this year. I'll try to keep track. So I have done my thing, and y'all have been quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I have talked my voice hoarse, and I have a date with my father. So I'm going to go pick him up. I lost my father-in-law 2 weeks ago, and it affects me greatly. And I'm not going to miss this opportunity with my dad in time to go spend time with him. So thank you guys for hanging out with me for this hour. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.